They always knock on my heavy oak front door. Strangers actually beg me for my ultimate longevity secret. They stand on my porch with these desperate, wide eyes. They expect me to hand them a magic recipe for raw kale juice. Or maybe they want me to tell them to chew a single almond 100 times. Garbage. Absolute garbage. I am 103 years old today. I am sitting here wearing a tailored cream silk suit. I have on my heavy real pearls. I am fully in charge of my own life. And my real secret to surviving 10 long decades is not some, overpriced green tea trend. It is keeping my human dignity completely intact. Listen closely to me, sugar. Aging is a magnificent privilege, but I refuse to pretend it is a perfect fairy tale. Things ache in the morning. My knees sound like popping bubble wrap. But the real, infuriating tragedy is not the physical reality of getting older. A profoundly ridiculous thing happens. The exact moment your hair turns platinum, society suddenly decides you forgot how to tie your own shoes. Complete strangers look at your beautiful wrinkles. They instantly drop their tone into that sickening, high-pitched toddler voice. They pat your arm with fake pity. They call you sweetie, or honey, or even worse, cute. I am a grown woman who survived a world war and 3 massive economic recessions. Do not ever call me cute. That constant suffocating infantilization is an absolute poison. It will completely extinguish your brain sparkle faster than anything else in this world. When society treats you like a fragile child, you might start to believe them. You might shrink your personality just to make younger people feel comfortable. Well, my house, my rules. We do not shrink for anyone in this lifetime. You deserve respect, not a pat on the head. Today, I am going to arm you with real weapons. We are going to quickly reclaim your personal power. I am going to teach you 3 incredibly sharp, sassy comebacks. You will use these exact phrases the next time a stranger treats you like a helpless toddler. We are going to politely put these people right back in their place. And we are going to do it with a gorgeous, iron-clad smile. Well, sugar, let us dive right into the very first scenario. I call this the cashier trap. I also call it the sweetness syndrome. I walked down to my local neighborhood grocery store last Tuesday morning. The sky looked a beautiful, clear blue. My left knee throbbed a little bit from the damp morning air. I do not ignore physical pain. I just acknowledge the ache and keep moving forward. I grabbed one of those small metal shopping carts. It had a terribly squeaky front wheel. I pushed the cart all the way to the fresh produce section. I spent a good 10 minutes inspecting a large pile of Granny Smith apples. I only buy the apples with completely tight, unblemished green skin. Then I strolled over to the seafood counter. I pointed out a thick, gorgeous cut of wild-caught salmon resting behind the glass. I wanted to cook a nice hearty meal for myself. I wheeled my squeaky little cart to check out lane number 4. The long fluorescent tubes buzzed loudly above the register. The cashier stood behind the scanner. He was a 19-year-old boy. He wore a bright red apron and a crooked plastic name tag. He had terrible slumping posture. He smelled heavily of a cheap synthetic pine cologne. He dragged my firm green apples across the red laser scanner. He bagged my fresh salmon without looking up at my face. I reached deep into my heavy wool coat pocket. I pulled out my vintage brown leather coin purse. I like to pay with exact cash to maintain my mental agility. I handed him a crisp $20 bill and some silver quarters. He popped the heavy metal register drawer open He grabbed a few crumpled dollar bills for my change. Then, he started treating me like a helpless little baby. He leaned his body over the black counter. He tilted his head sideways like a confused golden retriever. He hiked his voice up 3 octaves into a soft, high-pitched baby tone. He looked down at my wrinkled hands and smiled. He said, "Here is your change, sweetie pie. Do you need me to help you put that away in your teeny tiny little purse?" I did not gasp loudly. I did not show an ounce of fragile emotion. I just slowly reached out. I took the paper money directly from his hand. I placed the bills deliberately inside my leather pouch. I pinched the heavy brass clasp shut. Click. The sharp sound echoed clearly under those buzzing store lights. I pulled my shoulders all the way back. I lifted my chin high. I stared directly into his soul with eyes like frozen winter lakes. I dropped my voice to an absolute deadpan whisper. I said, "I am fine, sonny boy." The young teenager instantly froze in his tracks. He straightened his posture and muttered a quick, nervous apology. "You see, darling, you must fiercely mirror their childishness to break the ridiculous illusion. When younger folks use that sticky, sweet tone, well, they are just trying to make you feel incredibly small. They use diminutive titles to make themselves feel much larger and more capable. I never allow anyone to use those shrinking words on me. You survived a long lifetime of immense grief, wild joy, and profound loss. You do not need a teenager treating you like a helpless toddler playing with a shiny toy. Your extreme age is a heavy, magnificent crown. You must force society to respect that crown every single day. Now let us march right into the second scenario. I call this putting a rude doctor right back in his place. I went to a large local clinic for a standard routine checkup exactly 3 weeks ago. I asked my 60-year-old daughter to drive me there for one very specific reason. I desperately wanted to eat lunch at the authentic French bistro down the street afterward. I wanted a hot croque monsieur sandwich and a cold glass of sparkling water. I needed my daughter there to split the heavy lunch check with me. So we walked into the sterile clinic. We sat down inside examination room number 2. The ceiling vent blew freezing cold air directly onto my neck. I sat upright on the edge of the padded examining table. I smoothed out the wrinkles in my tailored silk slacks. I completely refused to wear those humiliating paper gowns for a simple conversation. The heavy wooden door suddenly swung open. A young doctor breezed into the small room carrying a silver computer tablet. He wore expensive, shiny brown leather shoes. He did not even bother to look up at my face. He looked entirely past me. He locked eyes with my daughter, sitting over in the corner chair. He incorrectly assumed I was a deaf, invisible piece of furniture. He smiled a fake, overly bright smile. He spoke at a painfully slow, dragging pace. He over-enunciated every single consonant. He said, "And how are we feeling today?" My lovely daughter immediately opened her mouth to answer for me. She meant well, sugar, but I aggressively shut that nonsense down. I deployed the gray rock method without a second thought. I simply raised my right hand. I placed it firmly on her knee to silence her completely. I slowly reached up to my face. I took my heavy tortoise-shell reading glasses off my nose. I deliberately folded the thick plastic arms together. I held the glasses in my right hand. I tapped them twice against the metal side table. Tap, tap! The sharp noise instantly sucked all the busy air right out of the room. The young doctor finally stopped typing. He looked directly at my face. I gave him my signature iron-clad deadpan stare. I did not blink a single time. I spoke in a clear, commanding tone. I said, "You might want to get your eyes checked, sonny boy, because you are not seeing things in this room very clearly." The young doctor turned a bright shade of red. He immediately apologized directly to me. "You have to understand a crucial truth, darling. You remain the absolute undisputed CEO of your own body. The modern medical industry loves to talk right over older adults. They try to treat us like we are merely passive passengers riding in the back seat of our own lives. You must demand absolute, unwavering respect in those clinical rooms. You voluntarily employ them to evaluate your long-term health span. They work directly for you. If you sit quietly and let them ignore your voice, you willingly surrender your bodily autonomy. I always take immediate control of the conversation. I ask sharp, direct questions about my daily preventative care routines. I force them to look me directly in the eye before I answer a single question. Refusing to be treated like an infant in a medical setting is a massive longevity secret. It preserves your human dignity. It keeps your personal boundaries completely impenetrable. Now let us move right into the third and final scenario. I call this destroying the terrible pity gaze of the solo diner. I absolutely love taking myself out on grand dates. I went to my favorite upscale seafood restaurant last Thursday evening. The air outside felt incredibly crisp and damp. I wore my thickest cashmere sweater to block the wind. The heavy mahogany doors of the restaurant swung open. The warm smell of melted butter and toasted garlic washed right over my cold face. The mate is a lovely man named Thomas. He knows my face very well. He immediately grabbed a thick leather menu. He walked me directly to my favorite semicircular booth in the quiet back corner. The booth features deep green velvet cushions. I sat down slowly and smoothed out my pleated wool skirt. I ordered my absolute favorite meal on the entire planet. I asked Thomas for the pan-seared dorado fish. I requested a large side of roasted asparagus with extra fresh lemon. I ordered a tall glass of sparkling mineral water with a tiny twist of lime. I sat back against the soft velvet cushion. I closed my eyes for a brief, glorious second. I just listened to the clinking wine glasses and the soft jazz music playing over the speakers. I felt completely at peace with my own beautiful company. Then I noticed a truly terrible energy radiating from the very next table. A middle-aged couple sat about 5 feet away from my quiet sanctuary. The husband wore a tight blue polo shirt. He stared blankly at his glowing phone screen the entire time. He did not speak a single word to his wife. The wife wore far too much heavy floral perfume. She kept looking over at my corner booth. She did not just casually glance at me. She stared at me with these big, sad, aggressively wrinkled eyes. She gave me the absolute classic pity gaze. People see a 100-year-old woman eating a beautiful piece of fish by herself. They automatically assume she is trapped in some tragic, lonely nightmare. They project their own deep, unhealed fears of isolation right onto my dinner plate. I simply ignored her heavy, suffocating stares. I cut a perfect piece of my flaky white dorado. I dipped it deeply into the warm lemon butter sauce. I took a slow, incredibly happy bite. But this misguided woman could not stand my quiet, independent joy. She suddenly pushed her wooden chair back. She walked loudly across the hardwood floor. She stopped right next to my private table. She leaned her body down with a fake, sorrowful smile plastered on her face. She placed her hand very close to my sparkling water glass. She sighed a very long, highly dramatic sigh. She spoke in that exact sickly sweet toddler voice we just discussed. She said, "My husband and I just could not bear to look at you sitting over here." She actually said those exact absurd words right to my face. She continued talking without taking a single breath. She said, "We hate seeing you eat a lovely dinner all alone and sad." She pointed back at her completely silent, phone-addicted husband. She said, "We already told your waiter to put your little piece of fish on our bill, so you can just bring your plate over and join us, so you are not lonely anymore." Let us pause and deeply analyze this pure societal absurdity. This complete stranger decided my peaceful solitude was an actual emergency. She decided to rescue me from my own fabulous, carefully curated life. She tried to buy my precious company with a $30 piece of fish. She wanted to drag me into her boring, silent marriage dynamic to make herself feel better. She wanted to play the role of the generous savior in her own fantasy life. I did not roll my eyes at her absolute audacity. I did not try to explain my rich, vibrant social calendar to her. I certainly did not act grateful for her deeply misguided charity stunt. I slowly set my heavy silver fork down on the pristine white tablecloth. I picked up my crisp linen napkin. I gently dabbed the corners of my mouth to remove the butter. I placed the napkin neatly back onto my lap. I looked directly up into her condescending eyes. I flashed her a totally brilliant, iron-clad smile. I spoke very slowly and very clearly so she would not miss a single syllable. I said, "Well, if this is a pity, Dorado, I can definitely get the expensive crab cakes too." I kept my eye contact locked fiercely right onto her face. I added, "I actually usually order the jumbo lobster thermidor when complete strangers insist on paying for my peace and quiet." Her jaw dropped open like a rusty broken mailbox. She stood there completely frozen in sheer shock. She did not know how to handle an old woman who flatly refused to play the tragic, lonely victim character. She quickly spun around on her high heels. She marched right back to her miserable, silent husband. I immediately flagged down my waiter Thomas. I ordered a massive slice of rich chocolate fudge cake for my dessert. I ate every single bite of it with absolute zero guilt while they paid my entire tab. You have to realize a massive truth about growing older, sugar. Solitude is the ultimate crowning glory of your own self-respect. Living alone is definitely not a punishment for outliving your peers. It is a magnificent, highly sought-after privilege. I hold total, uncompromising thermostat sovereignty in my house. I control the exact temperature of the rooms. I control the television channel every single night. I control the volume of the radio. I never have to argue about dirty coffee mugs left in the sink. I never have to listen to someone else chew their toast too loudly in the morning. My brain sparkle absolutely thrives inside my quiet, organized sanctuary. Modern society desperately wants you to fear being alone. They want you to think aging naturally means shrinking into a sad, dark corner. But, going to a beautiful restaurant by yourself is an act of pure, unfiltered power. You do not ever have to throw away your hard-earned peace just because a stranger feels uncomfortable with your fierce independence. You are not a charity case waiting for a rescue mission. You are the absolute, undisputed queen of your own time. And if they actually force the issue and demand to pay your bill, you always order the most expensive item on the menu to teach them a lesson. Well, darling, we have covered a lot of ground today. Modern society works very hard to strip away our daily dignity. They desperately want us to fade quietly into the pastel wallpaper. They use those high-pitched baby voices to minimize our massive life experience. But you do not have to accept that ridiculous treatment for a single second. You hold the heavy pen to your own life story. You survived decades of beautiful, unpredictable chaos. You earned every single silver hair on your magnificent head. You deserve to take up plenty of physical space in this world. Do not ever shrink your grand personality just to make a nervous stranger feel more comfortable. You are a roaring fire, not a flickering little candle. Aging is a brilliant, undeniable privilege. It is definitely not a terrible condition to be fixed. It is the ultimate, glorious victory lap. We focus so much on merely adding more calendar years to our long life. We really need to focus on adding actual, vibrant life to our years. You cannot have a happy ending to a miserable, defensive journey. If you spend your final decades feeling small and helpless, you miss out on the absolute best part of the entire ride. The absolute best part is the profound freedom. You finally get to stop caring completely about what other people think. You get to deploy the gray rock method on absolute fools. You get to walk away from pointless, exhausting drama without a single ounce of guilt. I want you to do something very specific for me right now. I do not want you to click any flashing buttons on your screen. I certainly do not want you to subscribe to anything at all. I just want you to put your heavy phone face down on the wooden table. I want you to stand up on your own two capable feet. Stretch your beautiful, tired arms right up toward the ceiling. Feel the solid, dependable ground underneath your shoes. Look directly out your nearest clear window. Take a massive, deep breath of fresh air. Acknowledge your fierce, undeniable independence today. You are completely in charge of your own thermostat. You are the sole protector of your own daily peace. If you feel incredibly brave today, you can leave a little note down in the comment section below. Tell me about your absolute favorite sassy comeback. Tell me exactly how you successfully defended your own strict boundaries this week. We can easily build a wonderful, fiercely independent community of strongs right here. I will be sitting right here in my favorite green velvet armchair. I will be reading your wonderful stories with a steaming hot cup of black coffee. You keep your chin held very high, sugar. You protect your precious brain sparkle at all absolute costs. You remember your own magnificent worth every single morning. I will see you next time.